My name is Andrew Limpert. I'm the CFO of Profire Energy, Inc. We are a technology company that serves the oil and gas industry. We sell high-tech thermostats that regulate heat, flame, and ignition in the oil field. So essentially what happens is oil and natural gas comes up out of the ground. It has impurities in it, and we are there to help in the movement and purification of that energy source. A brief introduction to those who don't know much about Profire Energy, and welcome to this site. And we're excited that you've taken a few minutes to learn about our business, but we were originally founded in Western Canada, in Alberta, where, as many of you know, the temperatures plummet into subarctic ranges where it gets very difficult to move oil. It gets very thick, and it's difficult to transport. So with our technology, we are there to provide solutions to heat that in a safe way. And just briefly, we've received many awards as far as the growth of our company, and we've done so with an organic strategy, meaning we have never taken any external funding and we have no debt currently on the business. If you look at the next slide, number 4, it illustrates what I was briefly mentioning early on. Item number 1, which is an upstream visual, shows oil in the ground. It shows that there's a layer of water, which could also be wax or dirt, different types of impurities that are interlaid into that energy source. As that oil comes up to the surface, whether it happens to be through fracking or shale or just natural drilling, but you also hear about things about deep wells now or horizontal drilling. Any way that it comes to the surface, we're not too worried about. What we do is we get involved once it hits the surface. It has to be heated. It has to be separated, and heat is the key to that process. So what you find, as you see in slide number 1 upstream, or item number 1 of slide 4, on the upstream visual, is that there are big furnaces. And I believe we've got an additional picture here that may show that. Actually, let me back up. But a furnace actually heats it. It boils the oil, and it separates it. The lighter items go to the top, the heavier items go to the bottom, and that purifies the oil or natural gas so that it can be transported. When oil gets thick and heavy, it plugs up valves, and it's very hard to move. And it's very inefficient, and that's where Profire comes into play. Now these burners, these big furnaces, they have to be maintained, they have to be lit. And if they go out, it's like a pilot light that for any number of environmental reasons could go out. And so historically, the industry has sent a person, a maintenance person, or a pumper out to these different oil fields to check on the wells every day. If that furnace pilot light happens to be out, they have to physically relight them. This becomes a big problem if there's any type of a buildup of natural gas or oil. It can cause a big explosion, and in fact there were approximately 17 deaths last year as a result of oil field industries having to do with combustion. It's an issue that we are solving now with our technology. If you take a look at the next slide, you will see the technology itself. These are burner management systems that actually regulate the flame, they test the temperature, and they manage the fuel. And so that those burners are optimal. They don't have to burn all day long. They sense the amount of temperature, the optimal level of temperature actually in those burners to maintain them, so that when they get too hot, they turn themselves off. When they get too cool, they turn themselves back on. So it's like a furnace in your home. You don't have to run it all day long to keep it in an optimal zone. This puts money in the pocket of the oil companies, and it also saves the risk of the field workers having to relight those huge burners. You can imagine when you have fuel and flame together in the oil field, it's a very high potential risk. So we minimize that. This is another picture of what a furnace would look like. You can see in the slide in the top right-hand corner a visual where it actually goes into the burner itself. And you can see the small circular depiction is where our burner management system, which would be the brains of the burner, where it would sit. You see a big flare stack. an exhaust stack that comes up at the top left, and that's where all the waste would go. But look at the size of that furnace. If you had to relight that and it exploded, it would be quite a dangerous and hazardous situation. So if we look at what are the growth drivers of Profire, the first one has to do with economics, and I referenced this just a few minutes ago. We can put money in the pockets of the oil companies by allowing them to run their burners much more efficiently, so they don't have to run around the clock. That's a win for them. Safety is the same thing. If the employees, the pumpers, are not exposed to the risk of relighting these massive burners that could be potentially hazardous, then again, the liability goes down for the oil companies, but it's also a safe work environment. That's something that OSHA has a lot to say about in the United States. And just to look at the facts, in Canada, this type of technology is mandated. In the United States, we have 1.3 million wells between oil and natural gas, and many of them do not have any type of burner management system. And so that is where the safety, the hazard, comes in for the employees. So we solve that risk. The reignition risk goes away. The third one, as you recall, is compliance with emissions or pollution. In the prior slide, we showed a big exhaust stack. That's where all the particulates after the oil and natural gas is burned, that's where they would go into the environment. The EPA has a lot to say about how much and how often that pollution can go out into the environment. And so with the burner management system, we keep the companies that have these burners within compliance of the ranges that are acceptable for the EPA. So looking at the size of the market, we talked about that there are approximately 1 to 1.3 million wells in the United States. Each one of those could have as many as 2 to 3 potential utilizations of a burner management system. So if you look at the graph, the illustration on page 8, it shows that we have installed approximately 15,000 burner management systems over our lifetime. And so you can see the potential of this market in the United States and Canada included. Again, a macroeconomic view, high level, the United States is the leading natural gas producer. That is the future for much of the economic development in the Western United States, and certainly is the sweet spot for Profire and our opportunity. We also are seeing a trend towards the desire, and that's a politically charged term, but for the United States to become energy independent by 2020. With that, we would become the largest producer of oil. What does that mean? That means that there's a tremendous opportunity to be involved as a technology company in the energy space. But we're also seeing that approximately 35,000 new wells are coming online every single year. That market alone is substantial for Profire. As you can see, over our history, that's more than double that we've sold since we started the business. Again, to restate, in Canada, there are certain codes that require a burner management system for the reasons we spoke of, primarily for safety and for pollution control, but then also to appeal to the greed of certain oil companies. From our perspective, if we can put more money in their pocket and show them an economic model that will have an accelerated payback period through the use of our technology, that would add tremendous value. But Canada is the leader. We're starting to see a lot of noise in the United States, but it's on a regional basis or a state-by-state basis for similar types of pressure. As far as competition, it's very fragmented. In the United States, we have Platinum Technologies out of Texas, and then another competitor out of New Mexico called Surefire, and they both get their fair share of business. They have different advantages, but primarily disadvantages to what we offer, but they have their regional champions that buy their products. Another competitor out of Canada is ACL, and ACL primarily competes on the low end of the product spectrum. They're more interested in sparking and reignition, which is a viable market, which we're involved in as well with multiple products. But those are the primary competitors in the space. Profire is still the leader if you combine the revenues of those three companies, we're still larger than all of them. And Profire is the only public company that's a pure play in burner management technology that's available to any potential investors. Again, to restate, looking at our products, we have a full spectrum. We have the Profire 2100, which is our flagship. We have a 1300, which is simple ignition, again, competes with an ACL type product that we saw on the prior slide. And subsequent to the creation of this slide, we have an 1800 that has been released, and we've had a press release on that is a middle of the range type of product. If you look at the far right of your slide, you'll also see an air plate, which is a patent pending technology that Profire has. It's part of the fuel train, and what it does is it manipulates the oil and or gas mix with air and has the most efficient mix possible going through the fuel train. So in totality, if we look at these products and their usage together, we've seen efficiencies go up by as much as 70% on certain fuel trains and certain furnaces and burners. In Canada, we also offer service. We are the experts in combustion. It's a business that we've considered getting into in the United States. It is very vast, it is very broad. It's a massive opportunity. Just a snapshot on some of the people we do business with, and oftentimes it would not be directly with these companies, but would be with service companies that sell directly to the Exxons and Shells and ConocoPhillips. In some cases, we do have direct relationships. In other cases, we work through a distributor, as suggested in this slide. We continue to have a distribution relationship with a company in Brazil. And then in 2012, as the slide says, we added a relationship with Cameron, which is a Fortune 500 company, approximately a $15 billion market cap on the New York Stock Exchange, to do field service and distribution of our products. Our team, Brenton W. Hatch and Harold Albert, are the founders. Brenton Hatch is our CEO, Harold Albert, our COO, and I am Andrew Limpert, CFO. We have approximately 50 employees in 3 locations: Edmonton, Alberta, Linden, Utah, and Houston, Texas, and we're looking at expanding into several other states. Looking at the financial history, we have what I would consider for organic growth an exciting run rate. If you look at March, look at the top line, and approximately 6 million to 8 million, and then up to 16 million. Last year being a little bit flat, but still with some reasonable growth in what I would consider a difficult market. But our estimate is 16.7 million, and we have a 10K in approximately 2 weeks that you will be able to see the audited numbers on our 10K. So if I look a little bit tired, it's because I've been working on the 10K and the annual report. So we also have a forecast for next year for fiscal 2014 of $22.5 million on the top line, and we are excited about that number and working diligently to achieve it. And we would encourage you to watch our progress and watch these numbers as they develop. Again, a financial snapshot, just to reiterate: gross margins approximately 60%. Net margin historically is 20%. We have no long-term debt. We have sufficient cash and a strong working capital position, and you can see all the other relevant ratios that perhaps you'd be interested in. But again, stay tuned for a couple of weeks, and we will have our 10K reported. Metrics again: approximate stock price is $1.30. It trades approximately 10 to 12,000 shares a day. Market cap approximately 60 million, with 45 million and change outstanding, and around 7 million in the float, with heavy insider ownership at this point, showing the confidence of our management team in the future of our business. Our forecast: we're very excited about this slide. Let's focus on the 2013 revenue number of 16.7 million, showing a 5% increase. And then if we look at the revenue, the top line for 2014 of 22,500,000, showing 34% increase. And that is largely a domestic number. We are now starting to make some noise internationally in Australia and Russia. Those numbers are not built into these forecasts. And again, here's a visual that shows the annual revenues, and with the dotted line depicting on the far right the forecasts that we are putting in the market. Net income we showed in 2013, we're forecasting 1.4 million, which is, if you look at the line and carry it through, it's an anomaly. We've invested heavily in ourselves. We've approximately added 50%, 40% to the employee base, primarily in the sales area and R&D areas. And again, that's all through organic investment, as there is no external investment. And so that will impact our net income from time to time as we make investments in our future. The investments are substantial, and we expect to start seeing them in our growth rate as suggested in the prior slide, with our forecast of 22.5 million in revenue this next fiscal year. The Canadian quarterly revenues are somewhat volatile. We had some bigger numbers about a year ago, and those had to do with some regulatory changes in Canada. We're starting to see those normalize now, and we're also expecting, as our forecast suggests, a strong tick up in Canada. The United States numbers on slide 22 suggest significant growth. I recognize that comes from a small numerical base back in Q1 2012. However, we are very excited about the robustness of this curve, and we're executing diligently to continue it and to grow it. And we're excited to report our numbers going forward. And we see a significant and similar trends in the United States. Our future ad offices, as suggested, Pennsylvania, Oklahoma, those are natural networks for Profire. We're seeing a large amount of energy exploration activity in both of those locations. Also in North Dakota would be a third that we could perhaps add there. As suggested prior, Russia, India, China, Australia, there are many opportunities internationally. There are many challenges that go hand in hand with that opportunity, but we believe the international opportunity is about a 20x from what the domestic North American opportunity is. As time allows and as our strategic vision allows, we will begin to enter those markets and provide products to those countries which have similar problems to what is being experienced here in the United States. On the R&D front, we would look to improve valve train technologies and power supply in remote locations. We think those are substantial opportunities. Add to our line on the burner management side, look for other benefits, and continue to get true field feedback from our current clients. What kind of problems are they seeing? What kind of opportunities are they identifying? And how can Profire, with our expertise, how can we bridge that gap? And how can we do it in a way to expand margin for our company? Profire is always looking for ways to add value, one of which potentially could be that of an acquisition. We look at the internal rate of return of Profire, and we have not found any acquisitions to date that would match just investing simply in ourselves. There will be strategic opportunities for acquisition going forward, and we would embrace those as they come to light and as they are accretive to our long-term value and earnings. And then certainly for our investors, we would like to get more liquidity in our company. And we believe that we will achieve that by expanding our board and getting the independent board members we need, and then a cross-listing to NASDAQ, which, as many of you know, we qualify for in many ways from a quantitative basis. So it's just a function of getting our qualitative board of directors in place and pursuing the application. Again, not too many people know about Profire. We have a fantastic synergy between the technology business and the robustness and all the drivers of energy which we spoke of. And we've invested heavily in ourselves. And we believe that we have substantial operational leverage now, meaning it won't take many additions of key personnel from here to see substantial return. We think that the growth will be there. We've made the investment. We've been through the tough portion of our growth curve, and now we're looking to execute and capitalize on this market. And we're excited about that. For more information, we would suggest that you look at our website. And in particular, feel free to send an email to Nate McBride. We will provide any information that we have that will aid you in your decision to see if Profire fits into your portfolio, if it fits into your allocation. And just in closing, I would suggest that you obviously do your homework, check out Profire, look at our growth rates, look at our products, take whatever steps you need to look at the industry and the competitive landscape. But I would suggest to you that if you're interested in looking for a up-and-coming technology company with the robustness, again, of energy, but without the binary risk of drilling and exploration and the overhead that accompanies traditional type of energy investing, the Profire could perhaps be a good fit in that portion of your portfolio's allocation. Thank you very much for your time.